It started as something so innocent. I almost feel ridiculous thinking how far it all went. I'm married to a man I genuinely love, Adam. We've been together for 5 years, and he's always been supportive, calm, and steady. If anything, our marriage felt predictable in the best way possible. I never sought drama, never missed passion, and definitely never thought I'd be the kind of person to end up in a story like this. I work in the operations department of a mid-sized company, nothing glamorous. A few months ago, Daniel joined the finance team. He was quiet, a bit awkward, and seemed like someone who didn't quite fit in. Most people kept their distance, but I always believed in being kind, especially to people who looked like they needed it. Daniel started having lunch in the break room where I usually sat. The first few conversations were just small talk, weather, office gossip, weekend plans. Then he started sharing more. His girlfriend had broken up with him. He was having a hard time adjusting to the new city, and he struggled with anxiety. I listened because I felt bad. That's all it was. Empathy. I gave him some advice, nothing too personal. Told him to focus on himself, recommended a few good therapists in the area. He seemed genuinely grateful. Eventually, we started talking more regularly, sometimes during short breaks, sometimes exchanging light texts. Nothing romantic, just casual check-ins. At home, I mentioned him a few times. Adam would laugh and say things like, "Sounds like you're mentoring the poor guy." Or he'd tease, "Your work husband needs to toughen up." It never bothered me because in my mind it was exactly that, harmless. I even told Adam that Daniel reminds me of my younger brother. The texts continued, mostly about work. One evening he messaged me asking if I could proofread a report. It was late, around 9 p.m., but I had my laptop open, so I said sure. He kept saying how much he appreciated my support, that no one else in the office had made him feel welcomed. I replied, "It's nothing. Just being decent." He wrote back, "You're more than decent. You're kind. You're rare." I remember that message making me pause. Not because it felt inappropriate, but because it was the first time someone had seen me that way in a long time. Adam is a good husband, but over the years, comfort took over compliments. I brushed it off. Didn't reply to that message directly, just sent back a thumbs up. A week later, Adam told me he'd be heading out of town to visit his mom who had just had minor surgery. I couldn't join because of a work presentation. Daniel was also involved in that project. He texted me on Friday evening, saying he was struggling to finish his slides and didn't know who to ask. He said, "Honestly, I don't know if I can get through this without screwing up." I hesitated, then told him I could help him prep for a bit. That was the decision that changed everything. He came over looking nervous, carrying his laptop and a half-hearted smile. I kept it casual, focused only on helping him prepare for the presentation. We sat across from each other, working through the slides, but it quickly turned into something else. He started complimenting me more directly. How calm I was under pressure. How I made everything seem manageable. I tried to redirect, staying professional, but his tone kept shifting. At one point he looked at me and said, "You're the kind of person someone could fall for without realizing it." I laughed it off, not because I thought it was funny, but because I didn't know how else to react. He apologized immediately, said he didn't mean to make things weird, and I told him it was fine. I told myself I'd just finish helping him, and that would be it. As the hours dragged on, the conversation drifted into more personal topics. He asked about my marriage. I said things were fine, just routine. He said, "You don't light up when you talk about him." I denied it, told him not to read into things. But something about that sentence lingered in my mind. I hadn't thought about it before, but there was truth in it. I had gotten used to feeling unappreciated, invisible, not unloved, but unnoticed. He picked up on that vulnerability fast, and he used it well. He started sharing things about his childhood, how he'd always felt like a burden, how no one ever stuck around long enough to really know him. I told him not everyone leaves. He looked right at me and said, "Then don't." It caught me off guard. I froze. There was a tension I couldn't explain. He leaned in a little, slowly, unsure. I didn't move. When he kissed me, it was brief, soft, and confusing. I didn't kiss him back, but I didn't stop it either. I pulled away after a second and whispered, "This isn't right." He nodded, said he was sorry, that he got carried away. I told him we should stop for the night. He packed up and left quickly. The door had barely closed before I felt the weight of what just happened. I told myself it was a one-time slip. I convinced myself that I'd been caught in a moment, that I didn't really do anything wrong. The next day, I ignored his messages. He didn't mention the kiss, just thanked me for the help. I replied briefly and left it at that. I promised myself I'd keep distance. But avoiding him at work was nearly impossible. He acted like nothing had happened, but every now and then, he'd drop comments that hinted otherwise. Comments about what we shared, about how real it felt. I stayed quiet. I didn't encourage, but I didn't shut it down either. I couldn't explain why. Maybe I liked being seen. Maybe I liked the feeling of being wanted, even if I knew it was wrong. Maybe I was just weak. I started avoiding being alone with him, kept conversations short, strictly work-related. But Daniel didn't make it easy. He knew how to find moments where we'd cross paths. Subtle, calculated. Always wearing that expression like he was holding some unspoken truth between us. He started texting again a bit more often, a little more personal. I never replied with anything flirtatious, but I didn't block him either. I told myself I was just trying to keep the peace, avoid awkward tension at work. But the truth is, I wasn't ready to sever it. That attention, however wrong, had become addictive. I checked my phone expecting a message. I'd feel disappointed when there wasn't one. At home, Adam noticed. He'd ask if I was okay, ask why I seemed distant. I blamed work stress. He believed me. He always believed me. I hated myself for lying, but telling him the truth felt impossible. I kept thinking I could fix it by pretending nothing happened. But pretending didn't stop the drift. I felt like I was living two versions of myself. One where I was the loyal wife and one where I was chasing validation I didn't want to admit I craved. Then things got worse. Adam and I had a fight. It wasn't even about Daniel. It was about dinner plans, a missed anniversary, and how I seemed disinterested in everything lately. He said, "I don't even know what's going on with you anymore." I said nothing. I couldn't defend myself without unraveling everything. That night I left the house. I wasn't thinking straight. I just needed air, space, something different. I drove aimlessly for a while, then parked. I saw his name on my phone. I told myself I just needed to talk to someone. I texted him. 20 minutes later, I was at his apartment. He opened the door and saw my face. Red eyes, clenched jaw. He asked what happened. I broke down. I told him everything I couldn't tell Adam. That I felt unseen, unwanted, confused. He listened without judgment. He put his arm around me. I should have left right then. But I didn't. I let the comfort take over. When it happened, it felt like silence. No fireworks, no passion. Just numbness wrapped in warmth I didn't deserve. I stayed for an hour afterward, barely speaking. He asked if I was okay. I said no. Then I left. The next day, I couldn't look at him in the eye. He brought me coffee in bed, kissed my forehead like nothing was broken. I forced a smile. I blocked Daniel's number that afternoon. I told myself it was over. But he found me at work and asked why I was ignoring him. I told him it was a mistake, that it never should have happened. He didn't argue. He asked if I planned on telling Adam. I shook my head. He leaned in and said, "Secrets don't stay buried forever. You know that, right?" I said nothing. I deleted every message, every trace. But I knew it was already too late.